From the National Weather Service in Raleigh, this is Jonathan Blaze here with our weekly routine weather briefing for Central North Carolina. We're looking at the period here in the middle of June out through June 18th. So just to get started on our weather map for today, we have a cold front. Late this morning, it's just moving across the North Carolina mountains. As the day wears on, it will push east and southeast, moving across the Piedmont and then eventually moving offshore late this evening toward midnight, if not maybe a little bit earlier. That front will sag to the south and will set up across Georgia and South Carolina tomorrow on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, the front may buckle north and lift north a little bit into the southern parts and eastern parts of North Carolina and South Carolina. Eventually, that front will fizzle out a little bit. We'll get a secondary front moving through on Friday, and a more unsettled pattern sets up late in the weekend and especially into Sunday. Ahead of our front today, we do expect some showers and thunderstorms to redevelop, mainly across, or initially across the Triad areas, and those showers will become a little bit more vigorous and grow into stronger and deeper thunderstorms as they approach the Triangle toward the mid-afternoon, and then as we head east, those showers and storms again will intensify across the coastal plain late this afternoon and into early this evening. We'll have some drier weather move in for tonight, and that will continue into early or into Tuesday. And as that front lifts north, we could see another chance of showers and a few storms late Tuesday night and especially Wednesday. That's mainly across the south associated with the front. Coverage on that should be fairly limited. And we actually have dry weather for Thursday into Friday and a warming trend with temperatures getting to near normal. And then again, we have another weather system coming through on Sunday that'll bring an increasing threat of some unsettled weather. But the main weather concern really for the next week is the potential for some strong and severe storms this afternoon and early this evening. And looking at that in general for the next 8 days, if we look in our upper left panel here, we have the day one severe weather outlook across the Carolinas. The yellow is the slight risk area where we expect a little bit better coverage of severe weather. Further west is the marginal risk in this darker green. That marginal risk extends all the way out to the eastern parts of the Triad and just east of Charlotte. So it encompasses most of our forecast area here in central North Carolina, including the Triangle and Fayetteville. As we head into that severe weather threat, we'll talk about a little bit more here in just a second, but that is mainly for mainly mid-afternoon to early this evening ahead of the front. As the front drops to our south, that severe weather threat becomes focused in Alabama and Georgia on Tuesday, so no real worries for us in our area. In fact, we expect mainly dry weather on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, as that front kind of buckles north a little bit, there is a threat of thunderstorms across the area as highlighted in this light green area, but the marginal risk or the risk of greater risk of some severe weather is across the southern tier of North Carolina and in coastal South Carolina. And looking further beyond that, no severe weather is anticipated as we head late in the week into early next week. Looking at our forecast area in more detail, again, the marginal risk, at least the most recent version issued by the Storm Prediction Center, just clips the eastern parts of the Triad, and the slight risk just is largely to our east in the coastal plain. Some latest guidance here, as noted by Mike Strickler, who's sitting next to me today. Thunderstorms as they exit, or showers as they exit the Triad, are likely to intensify just west of the Triangle as they push east. In fact, some of the guides suggest that coverage may be a little bit stronger, a little bit greater, and the storms may be a little stronger as they approach the Triangle toward mid-afternoon. So we'll continue to monitor that. So by no means are we out of the severe weather threat here at all. The greatest timing, or the timing of severe weather, is from 3 to 9. Probably the greatest threat will be, to be honest, from about 4 to 8, maybe 5 to 8, and that will be areas from Interstate 85, kind of south and east through the Triangle to Rocky Mount and perhaps Goldsboro. Looking for the precipitation forecast for the next few days. For today, we have some lighter precipitation across the area. Rainfall amounts mainly less than 1/10 of an inch across the western Piedmont. perhaps a little bit more in the coastal plain. This again is associated with our convection today, and the greater amounts to the east where coverage is expected to be greater. For Tuesday, this panel in the middle panel highlights rainfall. This is really for Tuesday night into early Wednesday, so the daytime hours on Tuesday will be dry, just some very light precipitation amounts late Tuesday night into early Wednesday. And again, Wednesday's focused across the south and southeast with, again, light precipitation amounts. Generally dry on Thursday and Friday, and if we look at just the rainfall totals for the next 5 days, pretty light amounts, mainly 1/10 of an inch or less in the Triad and down towards Charlotte. In the Triangle area, maybe 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch, and a little bit greater amounts down toward Fayetteville and Goldsboro. But still, these are fairly light amounts for a 5-day total. Excessive rainfall outlook, no risk for excessive rainfall for the next 3 days. Again, any thunderstorm today could produce some localized heavy rain and localized poor drainage kind of flooding, but for the most part, no organized area of flooding is expected. The tropics are quiet right now. No tropical cyclones are anticipated over the next week or so, and we'll keep an eye on that. Not surprising this time of year that the tropics often are slow to get going, so that's good news as well. And looking at the 8 to 14 day outlook, which carries us all the way almost to the end of the month, we have a pattern that suggests a large ridge over the central parts of the country, which is typically warmer and hotter and above normal temperatures, and some kind of troughiness across the eastern US. Still, details on this are a little bit uncertain, but that pattern looks like that's how things will set up for the 3rd week of June, and that would favor cooler than normal temperatures across the eastern parts of the Carolinas and Virginia, and a trend toward warmer conditions to the west. Depending where that ridge sets up, we could see these warmer conditions building eastward in time, especially as we head late in the month. And with that trough across the region, that would suggest a potential for perhaps a little bit more unsettled than normal, and that's why we have a slight tendency for above normal precipitation during the period. Keep in mind, average highs are creeping up, and they're generally in the upper 80s this time of year, with average overnight lows now right around 70. So just a quick weather summary. Another batch of showers and storms spreads across the area this afternoon. A few could be severe, mainly near US 1 in the Triangle and points east. The greatest threat today will be for some damaging winds, could be some small hail as well. There is another chance of showers and a few storms on Wednesday, mainly across the south. And generally fair weather then for late in the work week into the first part of the weekend. Next chance of unsettled weather arrives for Sunday, most likely. And again, we talked about the hazards for large hail and damaging winds being the primary risk today, mainly from the triangles and especially over to the northern coastal plain. On the bottom of the panel, we have our 7-day forecast. And again, that highlights kind of the warmest day on Wednesday and cooling off a little bit in the weekend as we get a little bit more unsettled. So with that, I'll pause the recording and I'll stand by for any questions if there are any. If we have any severe weather, we'll be sure to update our briefing slides and send those out as needed. Otherwise, hope everyone has a great week, and thanks for listening.